So you're probably wondering what happened with my E30 and why did I start taking it apart only about 2 months after I put it all together. I spent the last 2 years fixing it up, putting everything back together. As you know, we got the interior redone, we got a lot of our maintenance done, and you guys have probably been seeing on Instagram that I'm kind of done with this car. I'm really not sure what else to do with it, and today I'm just gonna explain why and what happened and get your guys' thoughts on it. So as you can see, I got my seat out, or this is my driver's seat, and it's not in the car anymore. And it's mainly because we took everything out of this car so that we could get access to everything that was not repaired properly. So if you guys have been following along, about 2 months ago is when I got this car back from rust repair, or about 3 months ago, and then from there we kind of were waiting on my interior to get redone. Then we were also waiting on some parts to come in, and eventually we got everything back into the car. All the interior was situated, and from my perspective, I thought that all the rust repair was properly done and we didn't have to worry about it anymore. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't really the case, and the only way I really found out was because I took this car to get it inspected. I dropped it off at a local BMW shop, a very well-known BMW shop around my area, and I basically told them, hey, tell me everything that's wrong with the car. Also, here's a box of parts. I basically gave them a box of parts to redo everything on the bottom side of the car. All the suspension was gonna be brand new. A lot of it was gonna be upgraded. We were gonna replace all the bushings and so on. But when they got back to me, they came across some pretty bad fines. And if you've been following along with this project, you know I paid a person a few $1,000s to go ahead and get all the rust repaired on the car. But unfortunately, that wasn't done and I never knew. Basically, I dropped this car off and the guy calls me and he's like, hey, I got some bad news. You're probably gonna wanna come down to the shop so we can talk about it. But when I got there, he was just like, hey, here's your keys. We're not gonna be working on the car anymore. It's just too bad of a situation to be in, so we don't wanna take any liability. I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? And he said, did you do the rust repair yourself? And I said, no. And basically after that, he just told me that, hey, he has a weird feeling that none of your rust repair was done properly. So I just deem it very unsafe and a few other things on the car. So I just don't want to take the liability and be working on it. So take the car back. We won't even be touching it. That's how bad it is. So that same day I get home and I'm pretty pissed. I get the car jacked up. I get it into the garage. I start grinding down and sanding down any of the parts that I could get access to that we recently repaired. The first area that I looked into was right down here in the wheel well area. And not sure how well you guys can see it, but there's still rust between the two metal panels that he fixed, or supposedly fixed. He really didn't take the proper time to flush weld everything closed or weld everything properly. He just kind of butt welded it, tacked it in some places, and then just used some silicone sealant and just covered everything up. So I knew if this side was bad, the other side had to be just as worse. And when I got to this side, he didn't even try. He just kind of covered everything up with more silicone, with some underspray coating, and just left the fiberglass, rust, everything as is. And he honestly didn't even replace the metal parts that I gave him for this jack point right here underneath the car. So then I get to the actual trunk, and this is probably the worst of it. If you remove this, you can literally see through the car. He didn't even try fixing it. He just sprayed it with more spray and just thought I would never notice. Even the parts down here that he supposedly fixed, like this is the portion that he fixed, 5 inches over, there's still rust. So honestly, the first thing I wanted to do was give him a call, ask him why he never fixed any of the car when I paid him a few $1,000s to do it. And his response was, I did everything properly. I don't know what you're talking about. Come to the shop and we'll talk more about it. So at that point, I scheduled a day with him. It's gonna be this Friday, and we're gonna take the car up there and we're gonna show him everything that he did incorrectly. As of right now, the 5 areas that he worked on, which were the trunk, the rocker panels, the floor pan, and the 2 jack points on both corners, all of that was just done poorly. Nothing was done properly. All the rust is still there. A lot of it was just covered up. And even the portions where he cut out the rust, I think were probably in a worse state than we were before. Most of the floor pan is just glued in. I'll show you guys that a little bit maybe on the next video when I get everything removed from the car, but it's pretty bad. And at this point, the car is probably worse than it was before we sent it off for the initial repair. So I'm really not sure what to do with it. I'm gonna need you guys down in the comments to let me know what I should do with this car. So the three options right now are to restart the build from the ground up and just do everything again. Second option is to cut my losses, get rid of the car, and maybe find another car or another project to work on, buy a newer car. I would love to have a G80 in the garage, so that's kind of an option. And the third option is to find another E30 that's rust free. You're gonna spend a good amount of money on that as well, and then slowly just start transferring all the good parts onto the new one, like the interior. We got a lot of, our motor's pretty strong. We don't have any major issues with our motor, so we can even buy a shell and just replace the entire motor into the new one, and we won't have the rust issue. But that's kind of what I need everyone's opinion on, whether I should take option 1, option 2, or option 3. At this point, I'm just really confused on the entire project. I've been kind of depressed because of this. It's been the last 2 years. I put a lot of time and money into this car, and it feels like it just all went down the drain for me. You guys let me know down in the comments what I should do. In the meantime, we're gonna go back to the shop this Friday, hopefully try to get some money back, and that will kind of weigh into the pros and cons of each of the options. I'm just gonna continue gutting out the interior of the car and get it ready to take down to him. So I guess for now, there's nothing else we can really do. I got most of the exterior gutted so we can show everything to him when we get to the shop. I'll get the rest of the interior gutted. We can actually see the floor pan damage, and then obviously we'll show him the trunk damage as well. All of that he didn't fix. So yeah, like I said, it's just a waiting game at this point. We'll see what he says when we get to his shop on Friday. I'll pick up the camera that day and update you guys on the situation as well. For today, we're just gonna call it. I'm just gonna continue gutting out the rest of the car and see what else I find. Hopefully nothing bad. But again, I appreciate all of you watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.